One time I got picked up by a brother. He took me home. I was going through. I was kind of injured in the spirit, and I let the brother know what I had just walked through. I was solo. It was early years, and took me to this place to rest. Had a farmhouse, and there was a book, the history of Gandhi. I might have mentioned this before. I don't know. I'm doing these podcasts. I don't remember what I did in the other ones, and I'm not going to look them all up. But but anyways, I there was a book, the history of Gandhi, was written by, if you know the story, he befriended a journalist, an American journalist, and this book was written by the journalist who gives the historical story of Gandhi's movement. And as I was reading it, I was thinking that Gandhi was so powerful because he had all these brothers backing him up. I had that thought. And here, within that season, a few months later, I got beamed to Amen. It was one of the first times I was actually spent time with Amen physically. And we were out in the desert at the river at our camp there. And Amen and one of the brothers, were, they were working on the Royal Coach, the bus that I rest in now. It's got a huge six-cylinder motor in it and transmission, huge transmission. And we were doing something with the transmission. I don't know what. I was not a mechanic at the time. But I was giving a hand, and the three of us were working on it. And right out of the clear blue, because, I had read a book about Gandhi, his own story that he wrote, a little story, and a book of all of his speeches called All Men Are Brothers. So Gandhi was in my life already, and he was, before I met Amen, he introduced me to a lot of Amen's spirit through his witness. And so, out of the clear blue, Amen looks at me and he says, do you know why Gandhi was so powerful? I mean, he started talking about Gandhi first. That's right. He started talking about Gandhi first, and right out of this book. And then he turned to me and asked me that question. Do you know why Gandhi was so powerful? And I said, because he had all those brothers backing him up. And he looked at me and he went, wrong. He was so powerful because he was right. Another thing Amen had said to me one time years later was, a lot of generals have fallen because they listened to the advice of a captain. He could have said kings and advisors. Same thing. We're all in those positions in our life. There's times we're given responsibility in a situation or to make a decision that's personal. That's our personal responsibility before Him. And then people come and give, sometimes you're surrounded by your closest associations and they all do not see what you're feeling from Him. And we're called to stand up. We got to be true to Him. And that's an achievement in this world. It's always faith. It's always going to be faith. Meaning, it's the best that you know and understand in the moment. But to be true to that, and especially, and I've had times in my life, like after Amen, it related that, and since, where I was put in that position. Of course, if you're shown something strongly, you can't walk away from it and be true to yourself. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. But to overcome even dealing with it, because it's hard. It's not an easy thing to do, to totally overcome the dealing with, especially if you're surrounded and you're seeing something that others aren't seeing, to hold your mud and to stand on that and not be taken away, even occupied. Now, I've definitely not achieved that yet. But that's the quest, to get to the place of, it's not about being right or wrong. it's never about being right or wrong. It's about being true to yourself in the presence of God. And in that, everything's going to be revealed. But the willingness, and I don't seek after that. Believe me, it's not comfortable to feel and have to stand in a place that those closest to you do not understand and agree with. And yet, all of us have to do that. I've had a few times in my life where it was very extreme. And it was a deep, very deep act of faith for me to do. Of course, when it was really extreme, he gave the strength. A lot of cases are just the everyday stuff. You have brothers and sisters that are close to you. You have certain feelings inside that you feel given by the Father. They're feelings. You can't even necessarily put them in tangible words. I mean, you could, but it's deeper than that. It's what you're called to feel and represent. And it's different than another person. And it doesn't mean that you're sitting there in some judgment of the other person. I could feel totally they are in their rightful place. They're playing out their part and serving him in that place. And this is where I'm being called to serve. But a lot of times the reflection doesn't come back that way. If somebody says, well, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? And you go, no, I'm not feeling that right now. And you have a reason in a feeling. Now, if the person's in their rightful place, they're going to go, cool. That's it. It's the end of it. And that's, this goes both ways. This goes both ways all the time. It's recognizing, you experience something from that side and then recognizing that there are times when I do the same thing. Okay, this is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. I want to give everyone sovereign relationship. And, in feelings of standing with feelings that we feel inside, it doesn't have to be right. And that doesn't mean you wouldn't go and say something to somebody. But your way of relating back with it, if they don't receive it, if it doesn't fit them at that time, you're totally free. And the trust that their connection with the Father overcomes all of it. It's all secondary. Whatever mode the Lord has them working in is where he is working through them perfectly, beyond any judgments of anything, and giving that to each other. It's not a right or wrong. It's not right or wrong. I mean, all of us we're all being refined. So, but in that refinement and the reflections that we're passing through one another, the truth setting us free. One of the brothers' Sabbath this week, and it was beautiful, and I love hearing it, is the recognition that if we're really looking at each other and seeing our love individually, looking at one another and seeing this person and that person's love for our Father and the desire to please him. And foundationally, we already have the most important agreements. I mean, in this body of people that I live in, we have a lot of very powerful foundational agreements. How well we perform in accordance to our own personal view of each other, it's so secondary. And so the brother was revelating on, seeing all these infractions that we all have and being occupied in the mind with it. And, of course, I know that experience totally. That the occupation is a denial of the beauty that we should be empowering in one another. It doesn't mean that you don't see things that aren't cool. You do. You see it in one another, and you can see it a lot of times better in each other than you do in yourself. Of course, that's the way things are made. That's why it's so important to receive one another. But I mean, you can't see what you don't see. But what Amen would say is all these things we see in each other, no, they're already gone. And in the meantime, praying for one another. To me, the prayer is not being occupied with the other person's whatever that they're carrying, but in strengthening them, maybe just from the inside. And Amen has related this. Sometimes you can't speak to another person about what you see, but you're empowering them with the truth, with the healing, the word, the truth that would be the healing to that. When you can speak it, you speak it. And you take the rap for it, meaning if they don't like hearing it, well, you take the ride with them. But you do it freely. You do it always to increase. And, another thing that came up in the communion was Amen relating that our salvation, even though it's given initially through Jesus Christ, is also comes through our praying for one another. That we all become Christ, right? We're all anointed to serve one another. And what a beautiful thing. Amen.